Hi there, welcome to the Focus Hoops vodcast. That's right, we're in video as well as audio. I'm joined by Ishmael Fontaine, well known to these parts by now. Ish, what's this like? Is it number 3, maybe 4?
I've got a mini series coming. This is what that's what they don't know. I've got a mini series coming.
And Lukas Volskis as well. You're on Twitter. What's your Twitter handle?
It's Lou_30_1. Get to know.
There you go. And of course, Ishmael Fontaine. Let's just get your Twitter out right now, Ish. What's your Twitter?
My Twitter is Ishmael Fontaine. You spell Ishmael in the Hebrew way and Fontaine in my slave master's way. And you're good.
I like it. Topical.
Very topical. Very topical.
Yeah.
Hey, go on then. Because I'm an established part of the what's it called, Below the Rim podcast. Would help if I remember the name. And we did a 2-hour podcast the other day talking about Black Lives Matter. Now that's not the focal point of this podcast at all, but just Ish, like, what has anything been said to you since we were on that podcast together?
Oh, loads of things, man. Loads of good and bad, but mostly good, which is helpful. Well, what really helped me understand that it was a good podcast was people are silent now. If they ain't got nothing good to say, they don't say it at all. That's what we need. Go over there somewhere. We're getting people out of it. We're cleansing the circle. You know what I'm saying? So it's blessed.
Yeah.
I had some criticism for saying cleanse the circle the other day. I had somebody be like, "Don't say that unless you're gonna listen." It's like, I'm listening. Don't you worry. That's all we should be doing. Like, I don't know. Not all we should be doing, but that's a big part of how white people can certainly help the situation. Anywho,
Yeah, indeed.
we're here to talk about British basketball, and Ishmael Fontaine and, of course, Lukas Volskis, two of the best people to talk British basketball with, I think, at this time. Especially, again, going off that Twitter game, because if there's ever something going on in British basketball, I just know that I'm going to see you two names pop up in a hurry. So we'd love to see that.
I appreciate that.
The reason this came about is I saw a conversation between you two talking about essentially the purpose of the BBL and its role in British player development. That's essentially how this podcast has come about, and that conversation has come about by the excellent Hoops Fix podcast. That was a huge BBL owners roundtable, including Vince, Russell Evanston, and a number of others. So that's what has sparked this conversation. So essentially, let's just dive into it then, really. What do you see? And we'll start with Lukas. What do you see as, what's the point of the BBL? What's its purpose?
I think purely it's just a basketball league. I don't think it's got a purpose beyond providing entertainment to, I guess, the British basketball fan club, essentially. I know there's obviously teams have different pathways and they have things in the community which are all very, very well and good to see. I think a lot of them are trying to do the right thing in terms of building up their own arenas, their own communities, their own followings. But I think my thing's always been with the BBL that it's always attracted, it's always overshadowed British kids, talented British kids, and brought in people from the States, not necessarily, the most talented players. Obviously, it's difficult because the league is not as established as other European leagues, so it's never going to be easy to attract the top players. And I think hopefully we'll see some changes with that. So I think it's always been, for me, and Ish, correct me if I'm wrong, but even from 5-10 years ago, it literally was a league for, if I'm being honest, American guys trying to chase a paycheck, maybe like towards the end of their career. I think, like I say, recently it's improved and there's been a lot of better players coming across, but I still believe that the best thing that could happen is the BBL should have a pathway for. Yes, I think essentially what I was saying is I think the BBL should tailor and be catered for developing British kids and keeping them here, because their whole thing from that podcast the other day, they're obviously very passionate about the structure that's here, and they believe they can compete with the other, structures around the world in terms of whether it's the US or Europe. So I think they should probably put their money where their mouth is and establish a system where we can keep the best British players here, and for the long term, not just for a year like we saw with the London City Royals, which is obviously a whole nother topic to discuss. But in terms of the purpose, I think literally it's just a league for the fans and nothing more, to be honest.
Ish.
I see the BBL as the I think that it is the highest level of basketball in this country. I see the BBL as a place to spotlight British talent, should be a place to spotlight British talent. I think some teams have executed that well over the last few years, but in the same breath, they could do better. And my thing was, I never saw the BBL as a place to develop British talent because it wasn't. And I wasn't a fan of, when I watched the podcast, I wasn't a fan of them attempting to behave like that's the case. So just like the Premiership, I don't see the Premiership as a place to develop British talent because it's not. You know, like guys go, 40 players from Chelsea are on loan right now. 40 of them. So, like, if I understand the BBL want to say that that's what they are, even though Chelsea is a completely different kettle of fish. They have a whole pathway from under 8 to men's. I'm not even sure it's the BBL's responsibility to develop players, because if a franchise league doesn't really do that, the NBA don't really develop young players. But they have a pathway through the ranks that's kind of unwritten. And the BBL has this sort of pathway. They don't know where they want to be. Do they want to be with the Europeans, their pathway, or the franchised NBA? There's two separate entities there. So I still see the BBL as a very good league, and I'm really proud of it, some aspects of it, especially the British players who have come back and made a name for themselves and established themselves in the league. But in the same breath, and I do say it as a professional league, and I'm happy we have a professional league here. I see 2 leagues as a professional league here, but we'll get on that. We'll get onto that later. At least I can define both of them by what they are, which is elite level basketball.
Yeah, that's fair. I think, do you know what, sorry, with the NBA, like you said, you know, about the development thing, I think with the NBA, you're still attracting the best talented young players. You're still drafting them and you're still developing them as, you know, like with the, just, I guess, with the training, with the games and stuff. And that's what I think the BBL could do the same thing, like take a young player and put the work in, basically. But I think we're attracting the established players from abroad. And a lot of the times, they may not be even better than what we have available here if the structure was in place.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
Oh, yeah.
So, would you like to see a bit more long-term thinking from what clubs are doing in the BBL, in terms of if they do take on a player, he knows he's got a future with this club for the longer term. Doesn't have to be. We're not talking 10 years necessarily, but let's talk about an 18, 19-year-old coming in. Instead of going to America, they know they've got some sort of established future laid out with this club. Is that the sort of thing that you would like to see?
I think if you're 18, 19 and you're good enough to go to the States, you're definitely good enough to play in the BBL. Depending on obviously what level it is. I mean, if we're talking Division 1, then yeah, fair enough. That's probably not even a conversation. But then again, you know, most collegiate programs in the States, it's not easy to get a scholarship. So you're obviously talented enough to warrant a place. So if you've got a talented kid and you're, say, as a BBL team, you're saying to them, look, come play here, and you may play, you know, 5 to 10 minutes a game for the first year, and then we try to see what happens. A lot of players probably think it may not be the best use of their time, especially when you combine the fact that they'd have to probably pay for a degree. I mean, some teams do help with that aspect of it, which is a big contributor in someone's decision. I think if you can go to uni for free, I think that in some ways you put your kind of pro career on hold for a minute, because you know that that's always something that not a lot of people get to experience. So I think it all depends on that, really. But I think if you're talented enough, 18, 19, to go to the States, you're definitely talented enough to play in the BBL. Whether they should put plans in place, they're all franchises. At the end of the day, they need to make revenue, they need to win games, and they need to survive. So, like Ishmael says, it's not it's not a nursery league where we're going to develop every kid.
Mm-hmm.
But I think there's definitely room for taking some of the best British players we have and try and build a system around them and put a structure in place where they can stay here and develop and, essentially compete with what's on offer across the pond.
Well, let's talk about a player that is definitely capable of playing BBL right now. Ishmael Fontaine's own teammate, Cam Hildreth. Cam Hildreth, the absolute sensation. How old is he? Is he 17?
He's a young boy, 17. I saw him the other day. He's got a little chin strap now, so he might try to fool a couple people. But he's a young boy, man. And I think it's not even about being able to play in the BBL anymore. It's about, does he fit a system? Are you going to let Cameron shoot a fadeaway jumper in the BBL? Are you going to let Cameron do what he does in the BBL, step back threes, shooting threes on a fast break with no one? Are you going to let him play that way? I think it's a system thing. Where would Cameron fit? What system would he fit in? I think mostly the one team I think he could probably fit in is the London Lions because of how they let Justin Robinson loose. And Justin Robinson also played high levels in America, played at Ryder, played against John Wall. I watched that game. And he can give him props and give him oh, this is what you do here. You can teach him, you can mentor him. But it's not really anymore about can Veron play in the BBL? Yes, he can. Can half of those players that play at Barking play in the BBL? Yes, they can. Can the BBL afford them? And can the BBL afford to put their talents into them, time into them? No, it can't. So do the BBL have 12 guys that they're paying? Does every team have 12 guys that they're paying? Probably not. And why are you filling those spots with guys that are not prospects? So. But in the same breath, I don't want to put it all on the BBL because I know there's some coaches out there that don't want their kids playing in the BBL because I've heard them say it and I've heard coaches tell me that's what's been said. So I don't want to stick it all on the BBL for developing guys, but I know there was 5 guys in that podcast talking about developing guys, but there's 11 teams, and I'm telling you right now, there's at least 4 teams, including some of those guys that were in the podcast, that are not set up to develop talent in this country. That's not, they can't sit there and what we'll get into later on is why they can't sit there and say certain things that they said because of how they're set up. So yes, for sure, Cameron Hildreth, the scoring machine, it is 6'4", plays the point guard position, can definitely play in the BBL, for sure.
How would it be possible, would it be viable to be able to bring a player like that into a franchise, into a BBL franchise? Could it work pretty much at all?
I think it can. Go ahead, sorry.
No, so go on, Ish, go ahead.
I think, of course, it can. But you have to let that player be him. It can't be somewhere where you take him and he's playing for a dictator because he's not trying to stay there for the rest of his life. Yeah. So one thing about Worthing, we let him play however he wanted. Sometimes they would moan at him for him not passing the ball and stuff, but in the most part, he played his game. You guys got to see everything Cameron has. You got to see everything, the post game, the pick and roll game, the pull up game. You got to see all of it. I don't see certain BBL players that are young get to shoot a pull up jumper. I don't know. It might be a sticky one for him. They might have to play their role and play behind some American guy that wants to take 30 shots a game. So Cameron shot the ball more times than Zaire shot the ball this year in Worthing. So it's about situation and system.
Yeah,
so,
I mean, sorry, go on.
No, you go.
No, I was just saying, I think, is it viable? It's probably how you define that, like whether you're basing it on what they can offer the player or whether, the other way around, whether he can make a difference on the BBL team. And I think someone like Cameron, which is probably the most talented player I've seen from these shores in a very long time, I think any BBL team, if they had a chance to sign him, I think they'd be stupid not to be honest. And if I was a BBL coach, I would let him do what he needed to do in the game. Obviously, nothing stupid, but the way he plays now for Worthing, the way he played at the Adidas Next Generation stuff, I'd let him do the same thing, because you're not gonna. We don't produce that kind of talent every year, and I think this guy really is the limit for him, to be honest.
Yeah, I agree.
So let's sort of take the personality out of it a little bit. But if you've got a player of that caliber coming through, who is, he's got to be a D1 talent, like, and a good D1 talent, college-wise, and again, a player of that talent. And I'm taking the personality, I'm taking the name out of it. It's just a child. I say child, apologies, but you know what I mean. Sorry, I'm not saying he's a
child. It's fine. He's a child.
Anyway, so you have a 17, 18-year-old super talented player. What would incentivize them to stay in the BBL during those formative years rather than going to an American college or going to a European program? Is there anything at this time that again, from the outside looking
right now, and I love my league. I love Britain, yeah. I love the BBL and I love the NBL. Nothing. There's nothing here. Nothing. And I spoke to one of my other guys, Jeremy Sosha. No one really talks about Jeremy. He plays on the #1 team in America right now, La Lumiere, right? They just played against Jalen Green, yeah? The offers he had before La Lumiere, I saw nothing on the table that kept him at itching. Nothing. The offers he had in Germany, the offers he had in Spain, the offers he had in France, all these offers he had, there was nothing keeping him here. The facilities, the setup, the contracts they had in for him, the education they had for him, there was nothing here that was going to set him up. And what the problem is with the BBL, right? Now is they're talking about the USA. They're talking about, oh guys, we can give you an education. Why are you telling professional basketball players about the education? Like, you think kids go to America to learn? You think I'm going to junior college for 2 years to learn maths and English? You're having a bubble bath. That's not why I'm there. That's the main reason why I didn't. That's probably the main reason why I didn't go.
Yeah.
Because I wasn't going to repeat my GCSE level English and maths. I wasn't doing that. So there's nothing. This is nothing.
Yeah, there is. Nah, I agree. I don't think it's comparable. I don't think you can make an argument right now between what's available here, what's available elsewhere. And I think we have a long way to go before we get to that stage. There's obviously, at the junior level, I'm talking like college and stuff, like if someone wanted to go to high school and someone wanted to stay, go to like Barking or Itchen or whatever, you could probably make a case, because a lot of kids now, there's a lot more exposure for and a lot more respect on English players in general when you look at the recruiting, which wasn't the case in, I'm going to say, our time when we played, which wasn't that long ago, but you know what I mean. So, especially at the pro ranks or whatnot, I just don't think it's comparable. Like, you brought facilities up, which is the biggest thing here. Like, how many courts can you go and play at? You have a lot of pro players that play abroad that come home and think like, what am I going to do here for 2 weeks? Like, why wouldn't I stay in Spain or whatnot, or maybe go to the States for the summer and pay, and get exactly what I'm paying for in terms of like facilities and the right coaching. So yeah, I think there's definitely a long way for us to go to get to the stage where we can entice people to stay here.
What I found particularly interesting about what the club owners were saying was about their community works and how they are big into having lots of club and youth basketball. And I used to joke a bit looking at all the Lions teams, for example. How many youth London Lions teams do they have? They seem to have loads, which is fantastic, actually, because you want to get as many people playing basketball as possible. But yeah, one thing that has struck me about BBL is there's no clear pathway. Now, that isn't necessarily the case for the national leagues. Where do you see that as having a role to play in developing British talent?
Go on, Ish.
Well, okay, cool. Well, for me, if you look at the Solent model, Solent have satellite clubs,
Yep.
National League teams. They have a EABL academy. They have a AOC academy. They have a girls team, and they have a university. So it's clear.
Yeah.
It is clear, concise. If you know, Newcastle say they have it as well, but in the same breath, I have not seen anyone I haven't seen anyone trickle into the Newcastle system. That's still there. Jamie Glenn was there in 2009. I think he does something else now. Eddie Matthews was there, but he went away and he came back. But in the same breath, it's not like Solit where you have, you know, Josh Goodard, for instance, has been at Solit since he was 6. He only left Solit when he decided to play men's. So it's way more clear in the NBL. Reading Rockets, way more clear at what the Rockets do. It's way more clear in the NBL. But in the same breath, it's not. Because there's a lot of gaps. There's a lot of, where do I go to play National League? I know in Worthing, we're starting our National League situation again because a lot of the players kind of aged out or left. And the previous owners didn't really see the youth pathway model as something. Now Zaire's there. He sees the youth pathway model as something important. And it's all about getting those pieces together. They have two colleges. They have Worthing College and Basvic. So there is a pathway, and the Basvic guys come to practice. The Basvic guys play on the youth team. So there is a pathway there. And you can get a Worthing jersey on in 4 years if you're nice, you know? But is that what you really want to do if you have a college, if you have a high school or junior college with you? No.
I'm going to ask the same question now. Why not? Because,
you know, these guys, they live in their house with their mother. That's the first thing. And I'll say one thing. I want to, as soon as we can, I want to get on to what these guys were saying, right? When I listen to a podcast about something, if I listen to Lucas's podcast, he talks about the BBL. I look at the BBL from a player standpoint. If I listen to the podcast and they're talking about, the youth guys going to America, I'm still looking at a player's standpoint. I felt like a lot of these guys were patronizing the players. I've never felt like going to the USA because of an experience. Like who said that? Yuri said, "Oh, it's the experience," in this most patronizing way. And I felt like, dude, you don't know me. I wasn't working. I wasn't running around in the rain and shooting outside in my ends with all the end situations going on so I can experience the USA. What are you talking about, bro? Like, never in a million years did I want to go to America just for the experience. I was trying to make something of myself. So they need to get that out of their head straight away, because it's not about the experience, you know? So as soon as we can get onto that, I can't wait, because a lot of guys need to know. Like, they need to, you know?
Like, let's divert course there. It seems like you're dragging us there, kicking and screaming-ish.
Yeah, we have to, man.
Let's talk about that idea of experience then, because you know I'm not too sure about yourself, Lucas, but I've definitely worked with young people before they go onto their university journey in a different guise, but still university journey. Ish, I know you work with young basketball players and of course Cam Hildreth.
Yeah.
So, I mean, is there no truth in what they're saying from your point of view with regard to the experience of going to an American college and having that, well, I mean, I'm going to use the word again, like experience of the American culture, the American basketball culture, that coaching, all of that?
So when they say experience, do they mean, I mean, there's a lot of variables there. Are you experiencing the basketball side or the non-basketball side? Because as Ish was saying, no one goes to the States to go and eat corn dogs or go and try the first, I don't know, Red Lobster. Like, you go there for basketball. Like, I went to a junior college in Tishomingo, Oklahoma, and it sounds as exciting as it is. And not for 1 second did I sit there and think, do you know what, I can't wait to get there and walk down a road that's a mile long and it's got 3 petrol stations on it and there's 1,000 people in the town. It was never about that. It was about, do you know what, this is the best opportunity you have to progress yourself as a player, because as we've been saying, there wasn't a pathway here that comes close. And I think from that podcast, what people do in this country in general, they highlight the bad experiences of players, and they try to portray it as norm, and as if there's like, you know, a better alternative here, which that isn't the case. So it's very easy. There are players that will go to the States and have a rubbish time, or play for the wrong coach, or go to the wrong school, or not fit the right system, or have a coaching change halfway through and then they're not playing anymore. So there's that to it. But I think, as I said in my tweets, there are a lot more people that have a positive experience in terms of, you know, basketball and developing, rather than those who don't. And a lot of the time, I think the bad experiences come from, if I'm being honest, probably just a lack of recruitment and a lack of interest from more schools. If you have 2 offers on the table or 1 offer on the table, that's from a junior college or from an NAA school, you're still going to consider that because there's nothing to keep you here, basically. And you probably rather take the gamble of going to like a Tishomingo, Oklahoma, and see what happens, just to be within the system of progressing. So, yeah, I forgot what the original question was, but I think my main thing is that, people are quite entitled to say that we have anything that can compete with the States, and people don't just go there for the experience or for the banter. People go there to develop themselves as basketball players.
Talk about.
Go on.
I will take it with the tone of contempt it sounded like. He sat there and he said experience. Now, for me, it sounded like you thought I was some sort of tourist when I was running around at 6 o'clock in the morning, getting my 2 miles in, then trying to get shots up before I went to school. It sounded like you thought I was preparing myself for a backpacking tour around America's great country. That is not the case. That has never been the case. I felt like I was offended for every young basketball player, personally, and I'm sensitive. I'm a sensitive human being. I got 2 daughters. I have to be sensitive, right? I was offended for every single basketball player who looks up to one of those owners and goes, right, he owns this team, he owns that team, and one day maybe I'll play for him, but I need to go get my stock up first and see if I can progress as a basketball player over here. The competition. If let's say Cameron didn't play NBL and he only played at Holy Trinity, and he only played at National League level Storm basketball, Sussex Storm basketball. And he said, I'm only doing that because I want to go to America and I can't play NBL. Are you going to tell him, no, go play NBL, or are you going to tell him, go play against the best players of your peers in America? That's the question. So it's not an experience. And Yuri, the thing what Yuri said, what really upset me, I listened to him say that it's an experience. You have not got the facilities available to get a player at 18, 19 for 4 years. You haven't got it. You don't give out scholarships. That means a player has to go get a loan, a school loan, that's going to be indebted to him for the time he goes just to play at Sussex Sheffield Sharks. For you to say it's an experience, even though you don't even have the facilities to facilitate these players, is kind of ignorant. Like, it doesn't make no sense. And as I say again, as a 16-year-old prospect, I did not care where I ended up. Listen, you could have put me in clan country. I'm trying to play ball. And I'm trying to build my stock up so I can come back with something to show the guys that fill their teams of American spots every year. Look, man, I played in the same system as Ramon Fletcher. I played in the same system, even though Ramon Fletcher is an excellent player. Played in the same system as Edgar McKnight. I played in the same system as here. I can back these guys up, or I can bring to this. You know, that's why guys go to these colleges. That's why a lot of them go to these colleges. I didn't even have the money to be experiencing things. Do you think I could go, Mom, I want to go and experience this thing? She went, yo, shut your face. That's not happening. You go there, you're going there to learn how to be a pro. So I was really taken back by that, man. I was really taken back. When he said experience, I was shocked. Yeah,
it is insulting. I think you hit the note. Yeah, super insulting. I think you've covered that pretty well, to be honest. I don't really have much else to add to that. Yeah.
You know, he said that, and Mollard said the same thing, you know? And the guys that don't even get to go to college, I saw Mollard. What did Mollard say? Mollard said, oh, these guys, they go to Italian leagues, level 4th league. Well, it's not the 4th league. And they they say they're playing pro. So you're gonna alienate them as well. You're gonna alienate the guys that are going to America because of whatever reason you're upset that they chose America over your program, over Plymouth Marjon, where you don't even offer scholarships. And to be fair, I watched Plymouth Marjon get waxed. And then you're gonna I alienate the guys that want to be paid to play basketball, live in a house by themselves and not 6-7 man, get their expenses paid. What else does Syria see gold from? Competitive salary for someone that wasn't making anything at your team, anything. You was there as an intern. You get good physio, you get good healthcare. You live by yourself or at least with one player. You might get a vehicle. You can get into the gym anytime you want. Can I get into Can I get into the pavilions anytime I want? Can I go to Plymouth Pavilions and get shots up? Isn't it a theatre? Like, don't alienate everyone. And he said the level was, what did he say? He said the level was Division 2 or Division 3. No, it's seriously gold. It's not Division 2 or Division 3. I'm sorry. Wow. I know to burst your bubble. No, it's not. Wow. Maybe it's not as good as the BBL, but you've got to say, why is it that Zach Gachette can play for Sheffield Sharks for all these years and prove that he can guard all these men, and what the agents think is the best ceiling for him is to go to Serie C gold.
Is that where it is now?
That's what you got to think.
That's a very good point.
Sorry, I was just I hadn't realised where Zach had gone. Is that where it is?
Yeah, Zach's in Serie C gold, and I don't want to talk about his paycheck or anything. But
no.
Now I'll explain another thing. Zach is black, yeah,
and he's going to Italy.
You never know. He's got that hair. You never know. It's a bit ambiguous, but he is black, right? I've had teammates that have gone to Italy only to be spat at and called names. We as a lot of players know the risks of going to these places. But what outweighs the risks is getting a resume ready and getting experience ready and being treated as a player and a professional just so we can get back in the door and be paid competitively in our own country. That's why. Exactly. Why do you think Orlan Jackman went to play Reg 1 in Germany, win the league, move up one level to Pro B? Why did he do that? And then come back and...
Let's talk about you. You've not mentioned your experience in Germany yet, which is a bit of a record for you, Ish. I'm not hating there, but every time... The other day you was in your... what team was it again? The one in green that you played for?
Oh, Hanover.
Oh, it was Hanover. Oh, sorry, my ignorance. You were talking about... So why did you go to Germany then?
I originally went to Germany because when I played... I'll be candid. I feel like I played professional basketball all my life. And when I played all my professional career, which started in 2009, when I played in the EBL 1 for a certain team, they said that they would do something for me, but they didn't do it. They said monetary-wise, they'd look after me. They didn't look after me. It caused a lot of problems in my family makeup. It changed my family makeup forever, actually. And I was averaging a certain amount of points, which I think was very competitive. I saw Orlan go. I spoke to Rishi Kakad, who played in, I think Lucas knows Rishi Kakad, unbelievable player.
Derby,
yeah, unbelievable player. Played at Leicester Riders, British player, we could get into that as well. And I just wanted more on my resume that I could show that I have transferable skills in another league. Because when I tell them I play second league England to these agents, I got laughed at sometimes. But what people don't understand is there's players from Reg 1 that go to Pro B, that go to Pro A. Chris Isles went from Reg 1 to Pro A. Chris Isles is a 5'7", 5'8" shooter from a NCJAA Division 2 school who played Reg 1 for 2 years and ended up playing Pro A, getting Pro A offers. So if I play NBL 1 and I only want to play in England, my ceiling is BBL. But if I play Reg 1, my ceiling could be anywhere in Europe, because mainland Europe, they all look at each other. The coaches are Croatian, the coaches are Serbian. You get French guys coming in. You get guys from Georgia, Greece, all these places, and they see you, and the agents are everywhere there. So that's why I went, for more exposure. I didn't just want to be held to NBL 1 standards, which I believe is an amazing standard. To be perfectly honest, I love right now. NBL one's a good standard. I like a lot of the teams in it. I dislike a lot of the teams in it because they're bringing the league down and making Lucas's argument stronger. But in the same breath, there's a lot of teams that are upgrading and moving forward. So that's why I went to Germany. I wanted to move up the leagues. I wanted to prove that I could play this game. And in England, I felt like I had them sort of coaches there, not just coaches, those sort of GMs there that will spend the whole summer in their office looking through thousands and thousands of tapes to fill their American spots before they look out to see what's going on. The only coach I ever saw at Midnight Madness was Vince. And he didn't just he went to the London one, he went to the Milton Keynes one. I didn't see anyone else. So that's my big problem. Like, you're looking for these players, no disrespect, but Sheffield have a point guard who I think we have four of the same guy. A 5'9" guy who runs this team and shoots threes. You could tell me you can't find one of those in England? You're having a bubble bath.
You are having a bubble. Yeah, it's crazy. That's exactly why people go to the States, to have it on their resume, which is what we said before. So you can come back here and compete with people that you're probably better than anyway. But you wouldn't have got a look in if you hadn't gone to America in the first place. So yeah. This
is what I'm saying. Like, none of those guys were breaded. Like, no one, even Cam in a situation, no one breaded Cam a year ago. We knew Cam was nice for years. No one picked him up and said, look, we got to put him in this pathway right now. So when he's ready to go, he'll be ready to go. No one spoke to his dad. His dad been around British basketball for eons. Who texts his dad like, yo, I have this in place for your son for when he's ready to go? No one does that. No one did that. Like, who else was there that was chatting crud? Like, you will go out and scour the earth for an American with a British passport, you will scour the earth. Oh my God, we need to find an American with a British passport who catches and shoots, who catches the ball on the three-point line and shoots it. And then when you have 16-year-olds looking at the Leicester roster or the Plymouth roster or the Sheffield roster, and they see you've gone and got an American guy who's never played here before or was born here and kicked the bucket, why would I not endeavor to go to America when my resume as a National League player isn't enough to get in a BBL team?
Exactly.
Unless, because I'm not Cameron. I'm not Cameron Hildreth. Everything I was gifted, I worked for. So I'm not Cameron. Like, I can't shoot fadeaway threes and all that stuff, but I'm solid. Like, why is me being solid and the guy in American college being solid different? Oh, that's why. The variable is America. Let me go. That's how a lot of these guys think.
Exactly. Yeah. What's funny? It's like you just like took me down memory lane when I was playing like NBL 1 when I was 16, 17, 18. It's like that's all you ever used to hear. Like, oh, we're playing against I don't know, Worthing on the weekend. Are they good? I don't know, maybe they've got an American. I'm like, right, but what does that actually mean? Like, that's like an old age English disease. Like, oh, they've got an American. Like, right, okay. So,
it's
and I think,
horrible.
Yeah, and it still transpires now. Like, you still have the same case now where, where what we're saying is that people come back here and, go to the States and come back just to say that they went there to get a look in. So I think that's not going away anytime soon. And the fact that we're now looking for Americans with British passports is probably going to push that conversation even further away. So, yeah, it's a long way to go, man.
So I want guys to... Sorry.
I was going to say, I was on a podcast the other day and we interviewed Richard Mollard. And one of the things that we brought up was basically the cost of Americans versus Brits. And we were talking very much in a post-COVID-19 context of whether or not that's going to be cheaper, more efficient, blah, blah, to have British players. And an argument that he put forward is the fact that you're in Bristol. Sorry, not Bristol, you're in Plymouth, which is, where it is. You have to basically relocate a person there permanently anyway. It's not so much for London Lions where you've got 8 million plus people on your doorstep. Surrey, similar situation. I mean, Plymouth is properly out of the way. So it's going to cost as much, if not more, for a British player to go play there than trying to get in as many Americans as you can. And if you can get a dual passport player, you know, obviously you've got that benefit. What do you say? What do you say to that kind of plan?
I will produce a rebuttal.
Sure.
When you go and get an American, you're not only relocating the American, you have to give him a visa. How much do visas cost? Visas are somewhere between £2,000 and £3,000 each, right? So it's always going to cost more to bring an American from there, always. Because if you take £200 out of your budget just to get some paper to say he's allowed to play here, it's going to cost more. What I want to say is, I was looking at it as a 17-year-old, 18-year-old, 19-year-old British basketball player who's a prospect who's going away, right? How can you say, oh, these guys go away for the experience, blah, 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 blah. Your league just commissioned 4 Americans. So 4 Americans and 1 EU player. That means you can have 4 dudes in your starting 5 that are American and 1 Croatian dude, and the rest of your bench is going to be British. Then you get a British veteran and another British veteran. That's 7 dudes. That's the rotation. That's the rotation, Darren. That's the rotation. That's the rotation. Go look at Cheshire. They got 2 British guys. The rotation's done. It's done. That's the rotation.
So this brings me back to my point of what's the purpose of the BBL. I said not like what's the point of it. Why does it exist? Because we all love the BBL. Like truly, well, I know you and I do, Ishmael, and I assume you do as well, Lucas.
He said,
no, obviously, come on. Like, I'm fine. It's the best league we have. So, like you said at the beginning, so it's the highest level of basketball we can watch it.
Like, we wouldn't be having this conversation if we didn't care. The reason I come back to is the purpose of the BBL is to be the best franchise in the BBL and to try and win the BBL, right?
It has to be.
So if getting 4 Americans, my Croatian and my 2 vets there, that's going to be my best chance of winning, right?
Maybe.
Let's just say that it is. Or at least that's my perception.
Okay.
Why am I going to be spending time and effort and money in my program trying to bring through British players? Or trying to convince kids? Yeah, go.
Every single good league in the world, better league than the BBL, has locals that kill. The German BBL has great locals. The German BBL. The point guard that played against us in GB. He played against who was our starting point guard? Teddy Okafor. Where does Teddy Okafor play? In Greece. Where does Ikapina, whatever his name is, play? In Germany. Some of their best players play in the BBL, and it's only recently that's been happening for us. When I was growing up, the BBL team consisted of the GB team consisted of players that I never thought would play here. I never thought Justin would play here in a million years. When I saw Justin signed here, I was shocked. I was shocked and confused. I was shocked. I wasn't shocked when I saw Ashley come here because I thought Ashley is one of the players that I felt like should have been in the ACB, and he kept on dragging teams to the ACB and they kept on treating him bad. So maybe he found a package here that could do something. But when Justin Robinson played here, I was shocked. I remember opening my phone, it was the summer, and I was like, I must be hallucinating because this guy has had a solid career overseas, right? So you want to invest in your British talent. You want to have a Teddy. People should have kept their eye on Teddy for ages. Teddy's been around since we were young. Like, how did Teddy not get an offer? Because all these offers they're talking about now, it just proves that you've made a mistake all those years because you could at least got Teddy for a year. At least. Because Teddy's, before he went to DCU, he was still a killer. So every single other league that can compete with us do way better in developing their players and look after them. France Pro A, is it full of Americans? No, it's a bunch of French guys playing. NM1, bunch of French guys. I'm not saying that they don't have imports, but the French guys play a major role. And now you're seeing in the BBL, the best teams in the BBL now have like loads of British talent. They're fighting over British talent now and paying them out the wazoo for top class British talent. So I think it's evident.
Yeah, Darren, so like to your point where if your purpose is winning and you're going to get 4 Americans and a Croatian and 2 other players, and your purpose is to win, you can't then make the same argument and say why are British kids going to the States if you're never going to give them a chance because your sole purpose is to recruit the best players that you have from the States and to win. That's why I feel that whole argument is just absurd to me, to be honest. Because if you have no intention of developing talent, why are you speaking about developing talent and turning up your nose at people leaving to go to the States? So
that's my point. That's my point, man. And you know what's crazy? Sean Wood are predicated on sending. There's not one kid that went to Sharnwood. There's not one kid that went to Sharnwood that says, I'm only going to Sharnwood because I want to play at Loughborough. There's not one kid.
Exactly.
There's not one kid. And you can say it's the culture or whatever, but Sharnwood, market there's any kid that goes to Sharnwood, you ask him why he's going. And he'll tell you because they place guys in America. Any kid that's going to Barking right now, you ask him why he's at Barking. Ask Veron why he left Ipswich and went to Barking.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't to get, maybe to get better second, but if Veron says to himself, I'm good enough to play in America right now, ask him why he's at Barking right now. If he was good enough last year to go to America, ask him why he's at Barking. So when I heard Russell and when I heard him say that, when I heard he was quiet for a long time, and I know why he was quiet because everything they were saying was like, yo, you're spitting on my whole team. And they just sent Blaise Sagna to some junior college in the middle of nowhere. The same thing that they've been saying, some junior college in the middle of nowhere. And I thought, why isn't Russell speaking? Oh, because that's what they do. They send guys away. They sent 90. They live on the fact that they sent 19 players away. Sent 19 players to America. And you're saying we don't know what the best situation is for them. That's your duty of care to know. It's not my duty of care. If I go to Sharnwood because I know in 2 years I'm going to be in an American school, it's your duty of care to put me in the right position. It's not your duty of care to go on Hoopsfix and say, some of these guys, they just want the experience. Yeah, bote. Experience. Oh, my Lord.
Well, who's come through Leicester? As in, like, there's Connor Washington. Did he go to the States?
Connor Washington went to America, and Connor Washington did not come through America. Connor Washington played with me in Milton Keynes.
Yeah,
he didn't play at Sharnwood. He was at Milton Keynes College. He played for the Milton Keynes Lions. Then he went to America. He came back. He practiced with us for a week. And then Reece Haggett's dad said, yo, I think Russell Livingston wants to speak to you. And then he went to Leicester. That's what happened. Okay. Jamal Anderson played at Essex.
That's the next thing.
He went to Essex. He didn't come through Sharnwood. He was already a pro when you approached him. And then you got him a scholarship. Who else did they say? Levi Noel? Levi Noel played in junior college and a Division 1 before he came back.
No, he did.
So I was like, I'm not saying they didn't do nothing for them, because obviously you do so much for players and they don't do nothing for themselves. It's not like they worked out, you know. It's not like you got a guy that couldn't bounce the ball and walk at the same time. That's not what happened, because that's how it sounds, you know.
Yeah.
It's a bit, you know.
Yeah, I was trying to think of what players actually came through their system, like solely through their system, and gone on to do.
There's not one.
Not one. So that's what. So that whole conversation is just stupid, and the whole argument is just it's silly. So
I'm not in the disagreement of you predicating your program on sending kids to America, but don't diss it. You're just hurting yourself.
Yeah, especially the fact that your biggest pool of recruitment is from the States. So how could you talk down in the system that you're going to go and beg people to come over and to play for you from? So, yeah.
Russell said something, and what killed me, I tell you what killed me, right? It killed me. Someone said that when they go away, they come back worse. I said, you can call me. You can call me, bro. And you know what killed me, bro? I ain't gonna lie. Like someone said, yeah, Jordan went to America, but when he came back, he was just the same solid guy. That's what Russell said. That's what Russell assumed. I'm not saying he flat out said that. I'm paraphrasing.
Jordan who?
Jordan Spencer.
BBL Cup and BBL League champion.
Wait, so you're saying from when he was 16 and went to a Division II school and played against Duke, and Mike Krzyzewski said this kid is amazing, gave Jordan Spencer a reference of how good he is, he came back the same player? Really?
Yeah, that's just arrogance and entitlement. I don't know. Yeah, it's weird.
And this is why I wrote notes, because I don't want to sound like them, you know? And Paul Blake, I agree with Paul Blake, what he's doing. He's got 90 local league teams. He has 900 kids in the gym that not all of them want to play basketball. But when you're talking about pathways, you don't have Northumbria no more. For some reason, they folded. And Northumbria, if you had Northumbria still, I'd have been like, bro, I can't say nothing to you. Northumbria is amazing. But none of those players that were in Northumbria played for you. Blaine Freckleton did not play at Newcastle.
Nope.
Simon Stewart did not play at Newcastle. Actually, it was a feeder club for Jamie Glenn, because Jamie Glenn was in Newcastle. You got the Northumbria thing, and you sent Jamie Glenn down. I remember playing against Jamie Glenn. So,
me and Jamel went there in 2010-11 to Northumbria and to Newcastle, and we spoke to Paul, and he was like, yeah, come here, play for the uni, play D3, and then maybe sometimes you'll be able to like practice with our BBL team. And then me and Jamel were like, not I'm saying I was anything amazing when I was playing, but I was like, I was at least worthy of being able to practice all the time, not like earning my stripes to go to training. Like, and I think that following year, he went to, where'd he go? He went to Loughborough, because we both felt like, this is absolute nonsense. So, but it is what it is. You know, people run their programs how they want to run them, and you know, good luck to them, I guess.
I'm okay with how you want to run your programs, but don't talk down on players, because I'm always going to defend the players. Don't talk down on players going away. Don't tell me. Don't say in the most patronizing way ever that it's an experience, and don't say that guys are going to Serie C to play pro and do this. Who wants to go to Serie C? How many guys that went to Serie C did you offer a contract before you started doing this?
Yeah, exactly.
Because I could ask Jonathan James right now. I got that kid's number. I could ask Sidney Donaldson right now. I can ask Zach Pichette right now. I could ask Levi No right now. You're gonna sit there and tell me Levi No's not a pro because he went over there and didn't want to play for you? That's not gonna happen.
But also, it's like, where do BBL players go from after playing in the BBL? Who's gone to play high standard after they played in the BBL? None. I can think of anyone. So that's what I'm saying. So you how you compared it earlier, where you said Zach Seelan was it Series C?
Yeah.
And it just doesn't compare to the BBL. So. And
I'll say one thing about Series C. I'll say one thing. I could watch the entire playoffs on a live stream and see both baskets. There was no slow motion, and they had replays. That's Series C gold for you. You want to talk about infrastructure? I'll say one thing. So let's not sneer at them. Let's not sneer at these guys that would die to play for some of you guys, because I speak to them all. They would die. You know, you just don't have what the setups for some of these guys, and you don't have the minutes. And admit that, and don't sneer at them for going away. Because right now, there's not one kid in the world who can go get a basketball job saying, "Oh yeah, I played under 18s, Reading Rockets, and now I'm trying to play pro."
Nope.
That's not happening. That's not happening.
No.
Liam Carpenter maybe, but Liam Carpenter had to play had to play JBBL and MBBL, and now he plays in the BBL. That was not Liam Carpenter, and Liam Carpenter is nowhere close to being as good as any BBL player there is. But look what he's playing. He's playing BBL right now. Liam Carpenter, Google it. Plays BBL Germany right now. Went from Reg 1 to BBL Germany.
So another question, thinking about a podcast I was on the other day. Was that with Russell or not? No, it wasn't. Relegation. Yeah. Is the franchise system incongruous with that player development pathway that we see sometimes in the National League? Would it be benefited from opening up the franchise system, maybe to having a relegation system, to try and making it more in line with what they do in Europe as opposed to America, or at least having some more clear and obvious links between the higher level National League teams and the BBL teams? Because we saw players go on loan from BBL to National League this season.
We saw players that never played in the country go on loan. They never been here before, Darren. I don't know these guys. The kid that went from London Lions to Hemel, I have never seen this kid before. He's not from here. Like, no disrespect. I'm glad that he's here. I'm not saying don't bring them here. I'm just saying do not base your stuff on a fallacy. The other kid, Liam Davis, is it the one that went to Reading from Bristol? He's got a British passport. He's got a British passport, 7-foot guy. He's never played here before. He never played here. So you're gonna say that's developing. You're developing a guy who never played, who didn't soil his oats here. So you're gonna develop a visitor. And I'm not saying that's wrong, but don't say that now, oh, we do develop British talent. We develop guys that played 4 years in America, yeah, and have never played here before. That doesn't make no sense. I'd understand if you had Jonathan James or, I don't know, like the Alex Roberts. You got Alex Roberts playing in Leicester, and I think he did a really good job when the guys were injured, by the way. And the German kid, Geitrick, they did really good jobs playing in the Leicester Riders teams. But that was due to injury. That wasn't because you had a spot for them. You know? Mollard mentioned the guy that played BBL minutes, but they weren't BBL minutes. Your team was down by 30, the game was almost over, and you put this guy in, and now you can use it as some sort of marketing tool to bring guys over. No. So I understand the loan system. I agree with the loan system. I think the loan system helps the NBL, and it helps me say what I've been saying about the NBL for a little while, because it solidifies my statement. But actually loan guys who you have an idea that you want to develop for the future. Loan those guys. Don't bring in an American with a British passport, then loan him to an NBL team. That's crazy. That's crazy. The NBL team could have gone and got him themselves.
Very true. Yeah.
It's crazy, man. It's crazy.
I think the relegation thing would probably be a good idea in theory, but realistically, how many NBL teams will be able to sustain being a BBL team? How many NBL teams can afford to go play in the BBL? Yeah, like even like with the Royals, you saw what happened there. Like, sustainability has always been something that's haunted British basketball teams, regardless. So
and gyms.
Yeah.
Like Ish says 4. I can't count 4. I can't count 4 gyms in the National League that are BBL level. I don't think.
That's a very good point.
That's the kicker.
Yeah.
That's the kicker.
And that's not shade at them. It's just the difference of standards, isn't it?
I agree with you. That's the kicker. That's the only thing. But stability-wise, there's 4 teams.
Oh, definitely.
When we talk about finances.
What 4 are you thinking? Worthing?
Worthing? No. Worthing. I didn't even think about Reading. But Reading could.
Yeah,
Reading could. But Reading.
Solent.
Worthing, Solent,
Loughborough,
Hemel, Loughborough.
But Loughborough.
I didn't want to say Thames Valley. The only reason I didn't want to say Thames Valley is because that gym they're playing in is the weakest thing ever. Like you're taking the biscuit with that gym. but
and Loughborough, you can't count Loughborough because that's theoretically a pathway team, which Loughborough is great, which we love.
Loughborough played in the BBL trophy and almost beat London Lions 2 years ago. I
remember. We all remember.
So they're a separate entity, right?
But isn't there a rule that you can't have 2 BBL teams within a certain radius or something?
Maybe.
Like, area-wise, sorry.
Maybe there is a rule. But I think the relegation situation for the BBL makes it even worse for British guys. Because you don't trust them when you ain't got nothing to lose. So, and everything to gain. You don't trust him when you got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So why would it, when the games are on the line, you're not throwing the ball to a British guy. Hey, man, get us a win. That's not happening. You know?
Actually, we did see that in the playoffs last year with Plymouth and London. Jonathan James got an incredible amount of minutes in the playoff decider at home to Plymouth, which was really good to see.
I agree.
I'm just using one example. I'm just saying.
I agree with you, because for me, if you ask me, Vince will take a chance on a young boy. Like, Vince has taken many chances on young boys, man. He had Jordan Spencer playing for him. He had Connor Washington. He had Jack Thompson. He had Cameron Bernard. He had me at 19. He had Craig Pringle.
Eddie Morrison.
Eddie Morrison. He wanted to build his team around Eddie the next year. Eddie didn't want to stay.
The truth.
The real Eddie.
Did he have Blaine Ferguson as well? Yeah. How old was Blaine when he played for him?
Blaine and Kevin.
Yeah, of course. Young. Kevin as well.
Blaine and Kevin were young. And I watched Kevin, and I watched Kevin. Kevin played minutes against Bristol with Zaire Taylor, with Alex Awumi, with Rashid Hassan. A good team.
Zach Wells, Naveed Niktash. That team.
Wells.
I like that team.
Yeah,
that team was fun.
Good team, man. I watched them lose against Bristol on the buzzer. It was tough. But for me, I'm not saying that Sheffield don't do it, because yes, they had Colin Singh, yes, they had Zach. But in the same breath, have they kept doing it every year? Are they consistent with it? No. So you have Newcastle Eagles. For me, they have. You could call them very, very British, but Fab's not British. Charles Smith wasn't British. Andrew Lasker wasn't British. Anthony Martin wasn't British. They had like 5 guys with British passports, but none of them grew up here. And then they had the bench with Joe Midori, and he didn't really play. And they had Matthews, the shooter kid, who's playing now, but it took him 5 or 6 years. And he had to go to Leeds to prove he could play. So it's tough. Plymouth don't have that. I don't really know about Plymouth. Who else was there? Russell's team. He had established guys.
Sharks, Vince, Russell, Plymouth, Newcastle. That was it.
Right.
I wanted to talk about Bucks very briefly. Where does Bucks fit into all of this? Because from the women's point of view, I have a bit more. Well, I follow Bucks women a bit closer, but I do know that a lot of the players that come over. Let's take Brandon Peele for a case in point. 3 years, one of the best players in the BBL. Yes, he's American, so he doesn't really fit our conversation right now. But he was studying on a master's at UCL. No, it's not UCL. Sorry,
UEL.
UEL. My apologies.
Go on, the boys.
UEL. At the sports doc facility, beautiful facility, and he's playing for Dave Greenaway every Wednesday, which still absolutely baffles me. Imagine walking into a gym. I don't know. I've never been a basketball player. Just look at me, okay? Now stop looking at me. You walk into a gym, you're a Bucks player. Yes, you're good, but that's Brandon Peele. Do you know what I mean? And he wasn't the only one. They had Flo Larkin and stuff like that. It came up as conversation on the podcast. What do we feel about playing like mainline BBL talent in the Bucks? And is that good development for players who do stay at your Marjans University, at Loughborough, at what other like top flight universities are there? Oh, Worcester, of course.
Yeah.
Well, go with Lucas, because I've always heard.
I feel like the sole purpose of using your American BBL players to play in Bucks is just to win. You don't have any other purpose for it. Like, and I say that I remember 2015 final eights at UEL when Loughborough lost against Sheffield when Zach Gachet and was it Nick Lewis that went absolutely mental. The next day they didn't even turn up for the game for the third place. The fifth place game. Like they all left. They all went home. So I don't feel like they even want to play Bucks, to be honest. I think they're made to play Bucks so then they can try and win a title. I don't know exactly what happens with like the practices and stuff, but if you're a full-time BBL player, how much time are you going to devote to playing for a university team? How much time have you got left to play for a university team in terms of, even if you look at just like the physical exhaustion of practicing for different teams, playing midweek games. Because even in the BBL, you play sometimes 2 games a week, don't you? So then you add a Wednesday into that.
So Wednesday,
where does that
Sunday.
all come into? Yeah, exactly. So where does that come into? I think, and I could be wrong, and I happily stand corrected on that. But I think the sole purpose of people playing their American players is just to win, and the Northern teams have done it for years. Like you mentioned, Worcester. Who else did it? Northumbria, Loughborough, yeah, all of them. They've done that for years. So Bucks could be a good pathway for British players. But then again, if you're going to bring in Americans to play for you, now you've got British kids that can't play in the BBL nor in Bucks. So there's literally nowhere to play, really.
I hate it. I hate it.
I didn't want to say that, but yeah, I hate it as well.
I hate it. I hate it. I hate it. There needs to be a devolution of talent. It can't be watching Charles Smith play in Northumbria with Darius Defoe. That's crazy. That's crazy. Watching them play Durham Wildcats. That's crazy, bro. Like, and then you say, and you use the argument, but it makes the league look better. That's not your job. We've been said that. Connor Washington gets injured playing UCL College in the college, University of Edinburgh for Bucks Wednesday, and he can't play in BBL game. That is ludicrous. That is crazy. And like Lucas said, when they got to a certain point, they didn't even show up. That's proof that no one wants to be there. You are forcing these dudes to play. No, the talent should be, if you play at a certain level, you can't go down to Bucks. Because it's Bucks Pro now. Bucks must be pro.
Exactly.
Bucks must be a professional league.
It's funny because, Durham, you mentioned Durham. There was that one year where they left the BBL, but they still had all the BBL players studying still. So they had a BBL team playing in Bucks, but that's all they did. Like, they weren't there as pros. They were just at the uni to finish their degrees. It was like the 2 brothers, was it Charlton Jones and the other kid, Chris Jones, and a whole bunch of other Americans. So that's like you say. Like, is it a pro league?
It must be. It has to be.
Exactly.
You say, we've got. I don't get me wrong. I liked watching the games because it was another place where I could see my favorite players, Jamal Anderson. Who else do I really like? Blaine didn't really play when he was playing pro, but the Loughborough guys, Connor, Jamel, Worcester had Will Creekmore. The guy was a double machine, and we're not talking 10 and 10 in the BBL. We're talking 20 and 20. He was averaging in the BBL. Then he goes and plays Bucks. That is lunacy. That is, even though I liked watching it, there is no diva. There is no. This is a step below. This is a step below. This is a step below. Like, you're making Bucks. Like, it didn't. Are you a pro? Are you a student? Are you a student pro? There's no such thing as a student pro.
No.
There's no such thing. You go to school to study to be a pro. So so to put pros in that makeup who have been to school for 4 years, I understand it's the way to get players to come here.
You got to get them. Your good players here somehow. You want to retain them. Like Brandon Peel, we'll take him as an example. One of the best players in the country for the last couple of years. I've had him on my All-Star team thereabouts in the last couple of years. Lions had him for 3 seasons.
Yeah.
In that time, they evolved as a program. I think, like,
I agree.
Huge improvements in what they've done. They've won a bunch, and a lot of that is built around and you've seen Brandon's game improve. It's been built around Brandon Peel and how his game personally has also gone like that. And now he's got a master's degree as well.
I agree, but I will say Vince was amazing with that.
Yeah, it's not exclusive though. I'm not saying it's exclusive thing.
The other coach was gonna let him go. The other coach was not playing him. I went to watch the games when they had the other coach. The other coach they had.
Yeah.
And Brandon was not playing. He was not playing. They was not playing him. And I will say Vince saw something in him and said, "Look, I don't think it had anything to do with the college because if they was gonna let him go, he wasn't signed to no 3-year contract. He signed another contract when Vince went to Washington to visit him, and he signed another contract on what he did in that first year.
Yeah.
So there has to be another way to keep those players. Sorry, unless you want to prove my point that the BBL doesn't develop talent, there has to be another way. I don't care what they do, just don't lie. I don't want to use the word lie, but don't use alternative facts. We'll use the senator, whatever her name is, that witch. We'll use her word. Don't use alternative facts to prove your point. Don't diss my young boys who are prospects and want to be seen and celebrated here and do a podcast with the top 5. It wasn't the bottom 5 in the BBL. It was the top 5. They're all playoff teams. Imagine how that must feel to a 16-year-old that's trying to go to America now. 90% of you are wasting your time. Some of you are going to colleges in the middle of nowhere. Just imagine listening to those words, like, and then going to Plymouth and going, "Hi, I heard what you said, and I've decided to try and play here." Yeah, bro, you ain't done enough. So, see you later.
So, do you think that reflects badly on the league? Like coming out with that sort of statement? I think I've got a fair idea what you might say, Ish. But go ahead.
I think it reflects badly on the people who said it.
Yeah.
I don't think it reflects badly on the league. I love the league. If I was ignorant, I wish I was ignorant to that podcast. I wouldn't have anything to say. I still watch the league. I love the league. My favorite players are in the league. I watch the BBL more than I watch Europe. I watch old BBL games from back in the day. I watch the ones that I miss now during the lockdown. So I wish I was ignorant to what they said, but I'm not. I heard it. It came out their mouths. So I can't be. You know?
Yeah. I think it may hurt the league inadvertently, because if, like you say, if you're a kid listening to that podcast and there's the 5 best teams in that podcast, in your head you're like, well, how many other teams think like this? So then automatically you may just not even entertain the fact of playing the BBL because you don't know how everyone else feels. And if that's a trend that you feel all the teams have, like, why would you, like play there? And like I say, so I don't know if it hurts the league per se, but I think it could affect how people perceive the league.
I think so too, man. I think so too, and I also think it will affect the guys that are actually trying to do that, trying to help talent, and it strengthens whatever academies is telling their players not to go there. It strengthens it. Look how they look at you, man. You didn't hear what they said about you going over there. It strengthens their argument. It strengthens their argument. They said that you're wasting your time going to college. Like the way I could word it. Imagine the way I could word it, that I could market my guy going over there instead of coming to play BBL now. You know?
Yeah, you're right.
And what constitutes a college that's a waste of time? What constitutes? Sean Wood should know, because they just sent 19 dudes. So be more specific about what's a waste of time to go to. Be more specific. Because if you ask me, I didn't want to go to junior college. I had offers. I went to Vegas. I didn't want to go to junior college, and I didn't want to go to NAIA. I wanted to go to an NCAA Division 1 or NCAA Division 2. That's me. But if you ask me again, and I didn't have my responsibilities, I probably would have gone.
Yeah, exactly.
You know?
So I've not been through the process. I've not been through the system like the pair of you have, and like the players that we're talking about have. So, you know. But the thing that stands out to me is I look at America, and then I look at Europe, and I'll be honest with you, staying in Britain for like the upper end of talent, if they've got American schools, they're probably going to go. Where's the merit with America versus Europe, though? If you've got opportunity to go to Europe, because again, thinking about Zach Wells, he went to Europe. I think, where did he go? Did he go to Spain as a 17, 18-year-old? Gran Canaria, I think so. So it's been a while. Check it out, the Split Focus Sports and the FocusHoops podcast. And him and Harrison Gamble. Yeah, Harrison Gamble went and played in Europe together. That's how they became boys.
Great.
I think it depends on what your long-term goal is, really. It may be even a short-term goal, because you go to Europe if you're 18, 19, or 7. Like, well, 'cause when I was at Barking, we had a lot of people that had offers to go to Europe, and obviously the first thing you get is the financial side of it, that which plays a big part, and you're essentially going to play within a professional system, whether it's like not the main team, but for example like the academy. So a lot of European teams, their second teams playing like our equivalent of NBL 1, but they're made up solely of young kids to develop, because they don't care about winning the second division. They care about producing the best players. So if your immediate goal is turn pro as fast as you can, and factor that in with how you play, what system you fit, whether you're more suited to the faster, more physical game in the States, or whether you're more suited to the European game, that all plays a factor. I think you go to the States because you have probably, I wouldn't say more opportunity, but you probably have a wider selection of pathways to go from there. So when you obviously, the playing at, let's say, Division 1, that has a high grade on your resume, which is obviously important to have. So you go to the States with the hope of playing, getting good stats, and then essentially getting a top European job with a high salary. Whereas if you go to Europe straight away, you're effectively going to play up the ranks in the hope that you're going to make it one day to a higher salary, a better team. But at the same time, you give up your eligibility as well. So if the professional thing doesn't work out for you, realistically, you're stuck in limbo, because you can't really, if you haven't got the resume to move up to a better team, and you can't go back to college, then chances are you may just have to bounce around the lower leagues and effectively put yourself at a loss per se. So I think it really depends on A, what you want to get out of it, and B, what suits you better, basically, as a player.
I agree, man. I agree. I also want to point out, someone says something about Kareem. Is his name Kareem, the kid that was at Leicester Warriors, and then he went to play at Real Madrid?
Yeah.
And now he plays. Someone, they mentioned him, and they said, oh, now he doesn't. No one talks about him no more. As a guy who went to Europe, I talk about him, but I know. And he went to Europe, and he went to Real Madrid. You're turning down Real Madrid. Okay, I'm going to turn down Real Madrid for one Leicester. Of these BBL teams. Right? They mentioned him and said now he's in limbo and he doesn't know what's going on. But no one mentioned Carl Wheatle.
Nope, it doesn't fit the narrative, that's why.
And no one mentioned Jules Dangacado, who played in Slovakia and Pro B Germany and was scoring 19 points in playoff games, because I watched those games. So I was like, that's very funny. So let's not use narratives. But I agree with Lucas, man. I agree with Lucas completely. The financial side, because these guys are young guys who are turning into men. They've got to figure out how to make money when they grow up by doing this, by everyone putting their 10,000 hours. You think we don't want to get paid to do this? You know how much time I put into basketball? I wasn't sitting down playing NBA Live. Do you know what I'm saying? Because NBA Live was a nice thing back in the day. It wasn't 2K. So I wasn't doing that. From 15, when I started taking this serious, it was to be a pro. That was it. And when I started seeing the guys that used to come to coach and stuff, when they were Americans, and they were talking about you got to go to college to get scouted and stuff, and every single good player I've ever seen in the BBL who got breaded, Andrew Sullivan, Justin Robertson, Larkai, Paul Greed, all played in America. You're telling me that they wasted their time. You was gonna bread them when they were 19. You was not breading them, except Andrew Sullivan maybe. So it's a bit annoying. It's a bit. Sheffield, they dropped the ball. They had Miles Hessen. They dropped the ball on Miles Hessen. We all know that. All British basketball players know what Sheffield offered Miles Hessen.
I don't know.
Oh, well, I'm not going to do it out here. Me and you got to go have a conversation about that. So don't act like, we were looking into their future and no, we're not doing that today. I want to talk about my 2 professional leagues, man.
Go on then.
I'm waiting. Lucas, what do you see the BBL and NBL as?
Do you know what? I can make an argument that they're both not professional leagues. You said earlier, is every player and every team getting paid?
Yeah.
So if we just look at the definition of a professional league, like the bare minimum is that everyone has to be paid an amount of money that's not just, it's got to be sustainable because it's your profession. So technically, you should make enough to live off and not have to coach or do anything on the side. Like, you should be able to sustain, right? So, like I said, I don't know the ins and outs of the financials of all the BBL teams, but I probably would bet and say that not everyone on every team gets paid and not get paid enough to consider basketball as the sole profession and the sole income. And it's the same for the NBL. Because because there was teams this year in the NBL Division 1 where players had to pay to play. So we're not talking about players getting paid to play.
Man,
we're talking about
subs.
Yeah, exactly. We're talking about players paying for training and paying for the games, paying for the referees. So I think that's obviously a very like top level way to look at it. It doesn't mean to say that there's not teams in both leagues. Well, in obviously the BBL, every team's got a professional setup, and it's the same for the NBL. There's teams that have a very good structure, like you mentioned, Worthing, like Solent especially. That's probably the best example you can have. But I think if we look at the overall picture, obviously the BBL is a pro league because it is the highest level of basketball we have. Go on.
Do you think a pro league has to be predicated on everyone getting paid, period? Because in the same breath, when you say that, it's tough. It's tough for you to say, because it's like NBA players. Yeah, I know I'm going Quay.
Yeah, go on.
NBA players, have endorsements and they have to conduct themselves. That endorsement is their job, but they're being endorsed to play basketball. Or Ray Allen will star in a movie. So is he a professional actor? Like I don't, because he got paid for it. So the reason why I say BBL is professional is because they're moving towards everyone getting paid, right?
Yeah, of course.
The netball girls Super League, everyone gets paid now. Super League is it's sewn up. Everyone's getting paid, right? But they never was called a semi-professional league a year or 2 years ago. They did have people that had to work on the side because the money wasn't sustainable. But that's like the Lithuanian professional footballers. Like, do you call them semi-pros, like the Lithuanians?
To be honest, mate, I'm from there, but I know nothing about the football in that country. I know that sucks, and that's all I know. We invest everything we have into basketball, and that's all. But yeah, I get your point. I know what you're saying.
So I think my thing is, I feel people look at the NBL, like you did it. You fell into my trap. They look at the worst team in the NBL, and I will do that because the team you're talking about weren't necessarily the worst.
Yeah.
And the team below them paid guys.
Yeah.
But the team below were paying people to play. If you look at them and you don't look at the top, you kind of have a view of a skewed view. You know what I'm saying? So I need that for my country to have 2 solid professional leagues to be called professional leagues. For when we bring in Americans, you're bringing an American to play professional basketball. You're bringing in this guy to, even the young boys that supplement. You know, when I watched Luka Doncic when he was 16 and being plugged at EBA and ACB, you know, he was playing professional basketball.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it was.
Is it possible to say that the players are professional, but the league is semi-professional?
Oh yeah, no. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying that because you play in the NBL, that's not a professional league in my eyes, doesn't make you a pro in the way you conduct yourself and the fact that you should be treated as a professional player. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying in terms of structure and stuff, because I think there's probably a difference between getting paid to play and being a professional player. Because, you know, getting paid to play, like for example, like football in this country, like lower leagues, you may get paid like £50, £100 a game or whatnot, but that's still not enough for it to be your, do you know what I'm saying, like your sole income, which is why it's not a professional league. And that's my sole argument for it. Is I'm not saying that there aren't certain teams and certain players that should carry that status, and you know, because they conduct themselves as professionals, they do what's needed, and it's just that because of the structure of the league, they're not able to reap the full rewards of being a professional. I'm just saying that overall, until there's enough structure and it's sustainable, and teams don't have to pay, don't have to have players that pay to train and pay for the referees. I think until then we have a long way to go. But then again, that's probably a conversation for the people in charge rather than each team themselves. That's being putting a structure around.
I think the government, the governing body's got to do something about that.
Exactly.
When I heard that, I was sick, bro.
Yeah, of course. So yeah, I think. So and I think with the BBL now, like I know a lot of people still probably do coaching. I mean, is that the right assumption? I know probably a lot of teams probably do pay players just to play, but you probably have that to factor in as well. And also, I think as a professional league, so there was talks about the BBL potentially going bust because of the COVID stuff and not getting any emergency funding. But you could probably make the same argument for like the rugby league. They got a bailout, so that may not be the fairest argument. But my point is that
£17 million rugby league got, I think.
Yeah, exactly. So I just think in terms of structure and making sure that everyone's looked after, it's probably not professional in that sense, but it's definitely got probably the right tools and with the right minds involved in the leagues and the right people around them that could make it a fully sustainable professional league. And that's both for the BBL and the NBL. But I will say, sorry, go on. Just last thing with the NBL, I think it should be a development league for young players, like just how you have in most European countries, like even like in Lithuania, I'll say, because we just spoke about this nation of mine. You have the second league, like all the top teams, their second teams are filled with kids, and the sole purpose is just to develop play against
What's that league called again? That's the league with Vitus in it, right? What's that league called again?
So you have the LKL, which is the Lithuanian like basketball league, and you have the NKL, which is like the national basketball league.
Is there promotion relegation?
I think there is.
There is, yeah.
Top of my head, I don't want to lie and say there is or isn't, but
my boy plays there. My boy played there. Yeah, there is.
Yeah. Because like Žalgiris, they have essentially like all the Sabonis school kids playing for that team. So I am a firm believer in like what Barkin's doing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you obviously have to have some senior players in each team because if you want to compete, because then again,
absolutely.
like what is the purpose of the NBL? Like, do you want to win? Do you want to develop players? Like, what do you get for winning in the NBL? Like, what's your reward kind of thing? Yeah, I
don't know what the end game is for the NBL. I don't know what the end game is. Like, I always sit there and think, when you're at the top of the mountain, you're just at the top of the mountain. Like,
exactly.
I want solid. But in the same breath, everyone. Like, destroy everyone, including BBL teams.
Yeah.
And then I say, what's the end game? Like,
that's what I'm saying. So
I think for me, a professional league, it hasn't really got much to do with a professional team. Is not just about players being paid. It's about the whole infrastructure of how you look after those players. Like, like Manchester, for instance, they have Ulf. I think Ulf is like a prison officer.
Yeah.
I think he averages double, but I think he's a prison officer. And I speak to players all the time that say, I want to play in the BBL, but I'm also going to get another job to supplement playing in the BBL. And I say, why? Like, it's a professional league, So when I was in the BBL, I did a lot of coaching as well. So I think what I'd like to say about British professional basketball in England is that it's unique. Because when I was in Reg 1 in Germany, I didn't have to do any coaching. I just did it because I wanted to. I wanted a German coaching award. I didn't want a British one. And that's my ignorance. I shouldn't have said that. I felt bad saying, like Germany, the way they coach their stuff is like after my first year there, I said, all right, cool. I didn't do no coaching my first year. My second year I did coaching only because I wanted my B license. And that's what I got. So I think, and that's Reg 2, that's Reg 4, that's Reg 1. So that's like joint, so you got the BBL in Germany, you got Pro A and Pro B. Pro A and Pro B is kind of the same league because they're both called the second Bundesliga. And then you got Reg 1, and then you got Reg 2, and then you got Kreisliga, Oberliga, all these leagues, right? But was I on a fully professional team because I didn't coach and I just got paid and I lived in a house by myself and I had a car. Like, it's confusing to me because when I come back to England and I hear dudes can't, like, I go to watch a certain team play. My bad. I go to watch a certain team play. Like, they come to the copper box, I'm watching the game. I'm like, where's my favorite player? I go to the coach and say, where's this dude? He's like, oh, he had to work.
Yeah.
Like, I still have to look at, like, you know, and I only ask and I only want it to be named, given a full name, because when I see guys like AJ Carr come here, AJ Bassi, Alex Awumi, Zaire Taylor, who else is there? Blaine Freckleton. Those guys to me are pros, man. They're fully fledged, going at you pros. So
yeah.
It's one of those things that I think it's a difficult thing to sweep by. I would define it by what it is, and then I'll define both leagues by what they are: elite basketball leagues. I think that's the best way, you know. Because even when I played at Rosenheim, we had a practice gym. That's what I'm saying. in Reg 1, you know, we had a practice gym and a game gym, and I used to go to the practice gym at 8 o'clock every morning and shoot with the guy that plays at Essex now. So it's like, you know.
Yeah, I hear that. Yeah, you're right. It's about the infrastructure more so. Well, there's obviously the financial side plus the infrastructure, and you know, so there's a lot of work to be done by probably not so much the teams, because I feel like a lot of teams have exhausted all the resources they have, and they've done, like for example, Word and Hemel, they've done the best with the situation they have. So now they need like assistance or some sort of help from the actual governing body, and you know, to try and take them to the next level, really.
Yeah,
and that goes the same for the whole league. Yeah, so yeah, that's my opinion anyway.
So when are we going to see these 4 teams that could go BBL? Are we going to see it, do you reckon? Can we see it?
I don't think so. I want to.
Oh, yeah, it's 150 grand you have to have.
Yeah.
I think that's the amount. I'm pretty sure that's the amount.
So that's just to enter the league, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you can pay it in like installments. Like
I think it's 3 installments.
Okay, so then on top of that, you need to pay your players. You need to effectively run a team.
Yeah, you need to run a team.
I think
so. That's where Solent have got what is good for them. They've got their arena. I just don't know if it's big enough, but it's certainly nice enough. That place is nice.
I mean, it's big enough, man. You know, it's big enough. You go. Have you seen Cheshire's gym with 70,000 lines on it? It's big enough.
Yeah, exactly.
Lines is one thing, but actual capacity. What is the capacity at Solent?
700, I think. It's not big. It's not great.
It's not big, but it's a great gym.
It's Southampton. You expect 3,000 people in Southampton to go when St Mary's Park is down there. I'm not saying they don't have to move into another arena or something, but infrastructure-wise, there'd be a credit to the league. A credit.
I agree.
The way they run it, you know, they'd be one of the best run teams in the BBL.
The way they look after their media.
They have a pathway as well. They have a pathway. They actually have a player pathway, you know? So,
what would they, with a 700-seat arena, what would they charge per ticket to make it viable and sustainable?
That's the question.
Like the Royals, they had the right idea. They just had the poor execution, where the location didn't work. It was too far. Like, no one goes to Crystal Palace. It's like way out the league. The ticket prices were outrageous. You're obviously paying people.
How much were they? Out of interest.
28. I saw one ticket for like £28. I said,
that's what I'm saying. Like you can go to a Crystal Palace game, a West Ham game for 28 quid. You can go see Arsenal play for £28 if you want to, like
why would you?
midweek or whatever. Yeah.
all right.
So I think Royal showed the way of how it can be done. I think it just needs to be a bit more realistic and sustainable than it was, because let's be honest, like all those people, all those names, all the financials that added up, they were never going to be, you know, long term with where you were playing and how much you were charging. Because
that's the only reason I didn't get down there, man.
But that's what I'm saying. It's too far, and
it's far.
There's not enough general interest from the public to buy the product, especially when you overprice the product from the get go before people actually have had a chance to see it for themselves.
I mean, this is where
Birmingham used to do this crazy thing, man, where they used to charge people £1 to get in. Birmingham Bullets, Nigel Lloyd's team, Birmingham Bullets, and charge £2 for the booklet, the
program.
Get the
program. And they used to fill out their gyms.
Yeah, of course.
So
exactly.
So I'm not saying do that, but I'm saying they knew the product they had on the floor was amazing. The infrastructure was amazing. And they just needed to fill their arenas. But in the same, like, I felt like they over budgeted their team. They went crazy with their team. Like
the Royals.
Yeah, like you're
stupid, man.
And you had whatever you had a system in place to make whatever player you wanted. You had a Force for Change, the documentary, right?
Right.
That system in place makes any player a star to the person that doesn't understand ball. Because you're looking at personalities and you're selling personalities before you're selling a ticket to the game. My favorite player is Razzie Lucas because he's so funny on that little video that I watch. So why would you go and spend out the wazoo for players? The wazoo. And the amount of Americans they brought in and sent home and brought in and sent home. I'm like, bro, you must be hemorrhaging money, you know? So I felt so sorry for them because I desperately wanted it to work.
Yeah, of course.
We all did. Like, I was so happy when I got to commentate a London derby. Like, are you kidding me? It was amazing.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
I was hearing stories about them going bust, I was suffering from cognitive dissonance. I was like, nah, they're gonna figure it out. Rare tear. I was like, any excuse. I was desperately wanted it to work because I loved that Force for Change stuff. I loved all the players. I loved like they had British coaches. It was like watching. It was amazing, man. So it stung me when they went bust. It stung me.
It links quite nicely though to the conversation. Sorry to cut across you there, Lucas, but to the conversation we've been having, because where was their pathway for British players?
They didn't have one.
Well, that's going to be not the whole problem, but it's going to be a big part of the problem. Like they had Cal Carey for half a game. He got injured. It's unfortunate. He ended up playing. Who did he end up playing for in D1? Did he play Hemel? Barking, that's all. And then he came back this year. But there weren't the links there. It just came out of nowhere, burned real bright, and then went away.
I agree, man. Like, I think personally, that's where, because we look at the European model and we look at the football model, that's where you start. You start from the grassroots. But these guys wanted to crash into a league that's been chugging along. You know, they said, we're gonna corner the market. But they're chugging along. This league is chugging along with the little salaries, not the little salaries, the modest salaries and the modest infrastructure and keeping it sustainable. You crash in there with your 4K cameras and your massive hot gym. And it's just like...
that gym is so hot. Oh my God.
It's cooking in there. You better have a change of clothes. You better have a change of clothes. Like, I even heard that, they're going to share the copper box with the Lions. And I said, that's amazing. It's going to be like the Lakers. And
Inter Milan and AC Milan.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's such a great idea. But in the same breath, it was like, what do you have behind you? You don't have anything behind you. And you don't have anything the reason why Worthing Fund is so busy for me is what we do in the community.
Yeah.
A lot of BBL teams spoke about it. What we do in the community is crazy, man. Like, the amount of schools we have in the community in Brighton, in Worthing, in Lancing, all these little places in Sussex is crazy.
So again,
and we have a national league too.
I know he didn't exactly ingratiate himself to you on that podcast, but when I was speaking to Richard Mallard last Tuesday, he spoke with quite a lot of passion about getting more kids in the Plymouth area just playing basketball through all their schemes in schools and that. And we're seeing that a lot with the BBL teams, which, I mean, that can only be positive. And an example that I wrote about a couple of years ago and really enjoy being around is Bristol, the Bristol Flyers. I think they're a really well-run organisation. They're a really high-class organisation. They got a great women's programme. They got girls' teams. They got men's teams. They got National League teams. They have the links with the colleges. But the thing that they've got that nobody else in the BBL has and I'm not entirely sure the reason, but I also see how it's difficult to happen, and I've had conversations with people before, they got that link to Bristol Sport. They've
Yeah.
got Bristol City. They got, oh, sorry, is it City? Yeah, it is. It's Bristol City. It's got Bristol Rugby. It's got the women's teams. It's all there. So much shared expertise, shared resources, funds, and they're going to build Bristol Arena eventually. And it's going to be, you know, they
Huge.
could be the blueprint to follow for this country, I reckon.
Yeah, but it's like the
Yeah.
Spanish model. It's like the German model.
Yeah.
FC Bayern has football teams, basketball teams, handball
Handball.
team, hockey,
Volleyball.
and it's all under one umbrella.
Yeah.
Real Madrid has the same thing. Barcelona has the same thing. But basketball here, if it's franchised, I didn't know it. I didn't think it could work. But obviously, Bristol are saying yes, this can work. Yes.
Yeah.
So,
I mean, the only thing they need is a bigger facility.
and they didn't overspend. And their facility, honestly, I played at Bristol, is the same size as Solent.
Yeah, but Bristol want
No,
to. Yeah, but Bristol are going to build a new gym and go bigger. That's the only thing I say with Solent there. Their
Yeah, and
gym
that's why Reading
isn't
That's why
expandable.
they delight Reading every year. Reading playing that dust.
Yeah.
Rivermead.
Oh my God! And the dust box of Rivermead with the yellow lines and the doo-doo floor. It's crazy, and I feel so sorry for him. Like he's actually the owner of Reading is actually working his butt off to get an arena, and he wants to be in the BBL. Imagine how comfortable he is right now with what he's doing, and he wants to upgrade. He is like the kind of owner that you want in the top league because of what he's doing behind him. They have girls teams. They have
Yeah. Their women's program is really well. Their women and girls program made it to the final four of the junior, the under 18s last year. I think they lost in the final and the cup.
Yeah. It's amazing there. It's amazing there, man. It's the model that you want. If they had the right gym, they'd be a force.
Hey, and imagine if they were to, combine somehow, even if loosely, with London Irish and Reading Football Club.
They're trying.
Are they actually?
They're trying. I mean, I heard Reading Football Club was supposed to build an arena next to their thing, And all fairness to Vince, when I was in Milton Keynes, he took me to the MK Arena, the cowshed, and he showed me, look, this is what we're playing in the shopping centre this year, but next year we're going to be playing in this place. And I was like, that's amazing. That is so cool. And to be honest, for him, I felt like they shafted him and they snaked him a bit. So I saw what he was trying to create, and then when they did that to him, he created the arena. Like he built the arena out of a warehouse where we could go every day and shoot. I used to work kids out there. I used to work myself out there. I was the basketball activator there. All those stuff. So I understand now the model of getting your own arena. But I don't think it's an excuse not to. I know we're coming back to it. This is a Sheffield guy. He made an excuse. He said, I'd love to develop all these guys, but we don't have a venue. That's not an excuse. London Lions don't have a venue now. They play in the Copper Box and they play at UEL. They don't own either of those arenas. They don't own Hackney College, but they've got a whole pathway. That is not an excuse.
They've got several. It looks like they've got several pathways. They got different kids all over the place. Like seriously, how many under 18 teams does one club need? It's great.
Oh mate, they got and it's good for the under 18 teams because it gives you something to strive for. I'm a Lion right now. I'm a Lion, and if you look at the football model, how many football players do you hear when they're growing up? Oh yeah, I used to play for Chelsea Youth back in the day, and they're playing Sunday League now. But how many of them felt like they had a chance? How many basketball players going to come out saying, yeah, I had a chance to go pro? When they're playing at Warwickshire Spartans or something that has no pathway to a pro team. It's one of those, we have to do, I say we, it's nothing to do with me. They have to do better, period. And they have to stop telling themselves that, I'm glad that they're telling themselves it's growing, but they can't spit in the faces of the young guys that are trying to make fun of themselves. That's it.
Lucas.
Boom. Yeah, mate. I forgot the question, to be honest.
It's just about minority sports in this country. Basketball, ice hockey is another example that I look at quite a bit. It's GMB Panthers,
Okay, yeah.
as they were. Can they work with more established sports like Bristol have, or even together? For example, like Manchester Giants and Manchester Phoenix, I think the hockey team is these days. What's stopping that, and could resources and ideas be pooled?
To be fair, I think it's like I mentioned before about the Royals. I think it's just general interest that's lacking from the basketball side. Like, imagine the Lions and West Ham. They're like next door to each other. Obviously, I don't know whether they try to have conversations. That's probably a very extreme example, but if you have an established football team or established sports organization, you have to do a lot of convincing because you're the one that needs them and not vice versa. Like, why would they potentially associate themselves with or affiliate with you when they don't know what they'll be getting at for? Like, what's the return on investment here, basically? So, I think where possible, I think like Ish said, it's putting together a structure that's sustainable, that drives interests. For example, like what Worthing have, and then go and reaching out to these other organisations and established, teams, whether it's football, whether it's rugby. But I think as a whole, I think the product of basketball has to be put in a better package for people to take it seriously, and not within the basketball circle, because we obviously respect the BBL.
Of course.
We follow the game, we enjoy it. I'm talking about the wider model of people who probably still, if you went out into the street today and said, "Oh yeah, who's your favourite basketball team?" Probably say, "Oh, the Harlem Globetrotters," or name me a basketball player, and they say, "Yeah, Michael Jordan." But they wouldn't have a clue that we had a team in the Olympics. They wouldn't have a clue that we, our women's team almost qualified for Tokyo 2021 if it wasn't for stupid South Korea throwing a game just to beat GP. Do you know that was the first game in ages where I was actually like devastated for like a day. I couldn't believe it. Anyway, so I think it's just packaging up basketball as something that could supplement these organisations, and showing them that it's sustainable, and it can be done. Because I think, what was it back in the day, Everton and Merseyside.
Tigers.
What was it?
Everton Tigers.
Yeah, exactly. So it's obviously possible. Yeah, it's obviously possible. But I think the fact that basketball fluctuates in this country, where we had the league back in the day that was major and on TV, and it kind of then dipped, and now it's on the way back up again. I think it's just convincing people to want to be affiliated, and I think sometimes there's only so much convincing you can do. So I'm hoping that every team exhausts every avenue to try and affiliate themselves in with bigger, whether it's governing bodies or sports organisations, football clubs, rugby clubs. I hope they do actually try to do that, but whether their cause gets answered, that's another story, which it's probably nothing to do with them. It's to do with the perception of the game.
I'm really conscious. Go on.
You can see what the perception of the game is when a dude goes viral saying, "Why does British basketball suck?" And none of us.
I can't. Do you know what?
No.
Don't
even.
Listen.
Why? Don't go. Like, why bring it up? Why give it the oxygen it doesn't?
Yeah. Listen. We've got something coming for that, and I can't wait to.
I'm glad, man. We need that guy. I need that answer, because some youth answered it. I don't know if you saw the youth that answered.
Let him know about these as well.
Yeah.
I will about the ice hockey.
I agree with both of you. I think this was productive.
I feel like we've touched on some good points today, and I appreciate the invite, Darren.
No worries. I appreciate you giving up your time on what day is it today? Monday evening.
Monday, mate.
It's been the virtual. Like I say, it was the virtual Le Mans 24 this weekend, so that was good. Speaking of that, and speaking about football team involvement, Wolverhampton Wanderers sponsored an esports car for the race this weekend, which I think is just kind of mad. I kind of love it. And back in the day in GT1, Newcastle United used to sponsor a GT1 car in the World Championships. Just weird.
They just got too much money, bruv. Just rubbish.
Yeah, I mean, the thing is, like, with esports, that's like the biggest, one of the most up and coming things. Not just sports, but like one of the biggest industries in terms of growth. So
you can get a scholarship to play in America now.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
which is crazy.
Let me go play some FIFA.
Like how much did that kid winning a game of winning a tournament of Fortnite? Was it like $3 million?
Yeah, I know. I think so.
The Fortnite guy won like 5 mil, didn't he?
I think so.
God. Oh my days.
Good
That's
for that.
crazy.
Good for that kid. That's what I said.
No,
I said good for that.
no,
Kid. Yeah,
no,
it's good
no,
for that
no.
kid.
No, that's crazy. That's crazy. That's crazy.
Why is it crazy?
No.
Why?
Oh my Lord.
You just bitter
God.
old man. Being bitter.
Now I've got to play like, yeah, good for him. I don't even want to be a hater, I don't want to sound like because I want my other points to stick. So I'm not even going to say. I want my other points to make complete and utter sense. So I'm not going to say
You should email him and ask him to sponsor a BBL thing.
This is it, man. Like, yo, I love what you're doing on Fortnite. Come and help us out. But that's what a lot of guys say, man. A lot of guys say if I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd make a BBL team. So you can't tell me people don't love the team. Like, that's
and
all
play
I hear
myself.
say. Yeah, that's all we say. That's literally all we say. Like, I'd be like a BBL team.
I'd be like Fab Florno, mate. I'd be like 47 playing 37 minutes a game.
Oh man, that's what I'm trying to say. Like, if we're gonna talk the talk, man. You had a 44-year-old, 47-year-old eating only bananas, playing like, he had that banana diet. He had the other diet, this diet to prolong his career when we should have been going, we have a young boy over there, we have this young boy. They said that they tried to sign Will Neighbor. Okay. They said they tried to sign all these other guys, These players could come forward and say that as well. But I don't know. I feel like it was a bit salty, some of the stuff that people were saying. The salt was real. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, go to America then. Like the salt was real when I was listening to it.
For sure. Yeah, man.
All right, I think that just about covers everything that we wanted to cover and a little bit more. So,
definitely.
Ishmael Fontaine, what's your final thing? Have you got anything to plug at the moment, Ish?
Cleanse your circle, people. This podcast came at a very, very stressful time for me, for all the anti-racists out there.
Yep.
Cleanse your circle.
Tell about the Vimto, Ishmael. Tell about the Vimto.
Get you some Vimto on offer from one of these amazing stores that stock them. Fill your cup with ice. Put the Vimto in first, then the water. Stir and sip the refreshing taste of Vimto as you cleanse your palate and your circle of racists and people that don't believe racism is a problem in this country. That's my only plug today.
I mean, what can I add to that? I think what I'm going to say is educate people as much as you can, educate yourself, because we're heading down a path that I didn't think even existed a few months ago. I didn't realize how many people there were in the world that felt the way they do. And I think even though we're not going to make a difference by ourselves, I think we can at least chip away at the conversation and do our part. So if you're going to do anything, educate yourself and try to help someone else out. And that's it, really. That's my final message.
I think I got one more message.
Go on.
BBL teams, don't berate these young boys for trying to go somewhere. Because as soon as you do that, they no longer want to listen to what you have to say.
Yeah, for sure.
No longer. Don't think that young people was not listening to that podcast. Don't sit there and think that. There's lots of young people that want to play in the BBL. There's lots of young people that want to be a lion, a shark, a raider. Don't sit there and berate them for trying to be something that you recruit every summer. Please. Okay, I'm done.
Oh, and I'm predicting Cameron's going to the league. So.
Oh, me too. Cameron's going to the league.
For sure.
And Jeremy. And Soshan.
Yeah.
Like Lumiere, Soshan. Big Ugly. Definitely going to the league.
Big Ugly.
All right.
Right, and on that note, we're going to leave it there. Ishmael Fontaine, Lukas Volskis, thank you so much for joining us this evening on Focus Hoops.